Fireworks lit up the skies across the country. For many Americans, this year's celebrations overshadowed by the battle against the coronavirus. Some beaches, normally crowded, were shut down. In Rhode Island, the nation's oldest Independence Day parade was scaled back to vehicles only. But it was full steam ahead for President Trump. Despite warnings from top health experts against holding large gatherings, the president began his Independence Day celebrations at Mount Rushmore, with thousands of supporters packed together with few visible masks. The president barely mentioning the pandemic, choosing instead to attack those protesting racial injustice. At the White House Saturday, he repeated divisive themes from his past campaigns as his efforts at re-election begin to falter.
Those that are lying about our history, those who want us to be ashamed of who we are not interested in justice or in healing. Their goal is demolition.
This as top health officials warn the United States is going in the wrong direction. New coronavirus cases passing the 50,000 mark on 4 different days last week. And after decreasing for nearly a month and a half, hospitalizations are trending up. This morning, we'll talk to leaders from hot zones in some of the hardest hit states, Texas, Arizona, and Florida. And we begin with Miami and Mayor Francis Suarez. We appreciate you joining us this morning, Mr. Mayor. Some alarming statistics this July 4th weekend. On Friday, the Miami-Dade region reporting a positivity test rate of 20%, meaning 1 in 5 people who took a coronavirus test tested positive. And on Saturday, Florida reported a new daily record for coronavirus cases, topping the previous record by more than 1,300. How do you stop this spread? What more can be done?
Yeah, well, it's clear that the growth is exponential at this point. We've been breaking record after record after record all the last couple of weeks. We instituted about a week ago a mask in public rule, and we also increased the severity of penalties for businesses that don't follow the rules. Our county closed down the beaches for the July 4th weekend in the hopes that all these rules will have an impact, a positive impact. It takes a little bit of time to find out exactly, but we're obviously very closely monitoring hospitalizations, and we're very, very closely monitoring the death rate, which are lagging indicators that give us the impression that we have to take much stricter measures.
As you said, Miami-Dade County did close its beaches, but what do you think of the response from the residents? What have you seen over the last couple of days?
They've been obviously they're a little bit upset to some extent, but we've seen compliance, at least in Miami-Dade County. I know that there are maybe other places where there haven't been perfect compliance, but we seem to have seen compliance over the weekend. So we're hopeful that the measures that we're putting into place will prevent us from having to put in more dramatic measures over the course of this week.
Well, you said the city mandated face coverings in public on June 25th with fines to enforce it. But how does that work, and have any fines been issued?
Yeah, the way it works is similar to when we did a stay-at-home order. We don't actually go door to door and knock on people's homes. And the fact of the matter is there's also an exception for exercise, which a lot of people are outdoors doing. The reason why we do it is it's no different than telling people they need to wear a seatbelt. If you get in a car accident, there's a good chance that you'll walk away if you're wearing a seatbelt. The same thing with the mask. If people are wearing the mask in public, there's a very good chance that we're going to be able to slow down or stop the spread. So that's the reason why we do it. In terms of enforcement, we have the first violation is a warning. The second violation is a $50 fine, then $150 and a $500 fine. We still haven't done massive amounts of enforcement, but we're hoping to see if people comply, and if not, we're going to have to go out there and do that enforcement.
Hey guys, what up? Total Control 871. Sorry for the long intro. Hopefully you stuck with me. Okay, today's topic is going to be about the Democratic nanny state. When the government takes control over your life and starts making decisions for you. Is it good? Is it bad? Can this authority run amok Remember now, all of the communist regimes of the world have taken control over their citizens' life, all in the name of good, or at least that's the way it started out. Nanny state. I've already discussed the veracity of their face rags, and we've seen how their own animation indicates that it doesn't stop it, it just simply redirects your breath in other directions. One thing I also wanted to point out in our segment is how, I mean, it really is quite astonishing to hear Martha Raddatz seamlessly, in one breath, one sentence, talk about non-compliant Trump supporters, and then go to talk about how Trump would bash people fighting racial injustice. Now, I'm not necessarily taking issue with Martha Raddatz pointing out how Trump will take his pot shots at protesters. Remember, my whole thing here is the cherry-picked virulence of this entire fake pandemic. Okay? You can't just simply say Trump rallies are super spreader events and then go to talk about protest riots as if it is our World War Z vaccine, that COVID is just simply going to part ways and go around you if it feels that your event is socially justified, if it feels it serves a higher purpose. I gave you, good Lord, 4 minutes of that segment already, which is a whole lot. I'll link it down below. You can watch the whole thing if you want. But we are seeing the psychotic approach to the virulence of a virus. You cannot change the rules of engagement just because you think that it is socially justifiable. Or like my one heckler said in the comment section, your problem is you just don't believe in it. As if believing in the pandemic will offer you protection of some sort. It doesn't work that way. Neither COVID nor any virus that transmit in that fashion. It doesn't. It's not like a dipstick. You dipstick. It doesn't stick its social thermometer into the room, into the mass gathering, pull it out, and then examine it the way the mechanic does, the dipstick. This is a socially acceptable event, therefore, okay, guys, we can't infect nobody here. Come on, pack it up. Let's head over to the Trump rally. Let's head over to the 4th of July gatherings. Let's head over to the beaches. But what can I say? The protest riots, it's a no-go. It's a hands-off event. Oh, God. So our virus is what? I guess our virus has a political party. I don't know. Is the virus registered to vote? I don't know. So it's crazy like that. When do people have to be told and forced to do what is in their own good? Of course, we see them use their seatbelt analogy. I'm not going to lie to you. Seatbelts have saved a lot of people's lives. Should it have been forced? Should it have been mandated? The whole child thing, child seats, child seatbelts, and booster seats, that's a separate thing. Children can't make those decisions for themselves. I don't know. I suppose maybe somebody could also make an argument that, if the adult secures the children in the back, but then ends up dying themselves in the front seat or the driver's seat because they weren't wearing a belt, you're leaving children parentless, orphaned. There's a lot that could be said there. As I continue to fight my camera orientation, I want to talk to you today about Nanny State. One metaphor I used was, food stamps. Strange. Nobody ever has to be forced into getting food stamps. There's a lot of things that are for people's own good, and they don't have to have their arm twisted to do it. I want to talk about my childhood bicycle riding and my adult cycling. As you guys know, this channel used to feature a great deal of cycling advocacy. I'm going to be doing a separate episode on where I'm at with the cycling. There's news to discuss. We'll talk about that in a separate episode. When I was a young lad, I had a buddy. His name was Rodney, and we would tear ass around town on our BMX style bicycles. And we would do very, very foolish and reckless things at the original convention center there on it, Pacific Avenue and the boardwalk. There's this concrete ramp, and it's just like perfectly aligned with an intersection of Pacific Avenue and I forget the cross street. Rodney had this way of talking me into doing things that weren't so smart, and we took it in our head to go to the top of this ramp, and we did our best to time it because Pacific Avenues, the traffic lights were formulated to keep traffic moving on Pacific Avenue, and cross streets. A lot of those cross street lights are really they're really only like 10 seconds long, if that, And so here we are trying to do this downhill ramp cross intersection with only like a 10-second thing, and you're far enough back where it could be like 10 seconds just, building up your speed down the ramp and making it to the intersection. And yeah, that a couple of times there where we would dart past and cars were basically like a Frogger situation, but as cars would. Obviously, we were young, we were children, and yeah. Honestly, we probably could have used a police officer coming along and telling us to knock it the fuck off. Again, Rodney and I, Harris Casino's parking garage, and there we are on our bikes and the top of the garage, and the challenge is to go full speed, no brakes. Well, thank God I didn't get hit by a car, but yeah, the wheels came out underneath me, crashed. My leg, it didn't break it, but my knee was badly sprained, and I ended up in a immobilizer, they called it, for about a week or so. Yeah, following behind Rodney, I swear to God. And then came the Route 30 bridge. You guys could probably Google map all this stuff, and you can see these locations that I'm talking about. We're like, what are we? 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, and the bridge to us looks like a fucking mountain, basically. And we would try to go up it, but then we'd chicken out and come and walk the bike back down. Now, the traffic coming in on Route 30 over that bridge, which was a drawbridge, by the way, the traffic coming into Atlantic City was 5 times greater than the traffic going out. So, anyway, we chickened out. Fast forward X amount of years, I'm on a steel frame mountain bike, GT mountain bike tires on it, okay? This is like in 97, 98, all right? And I finally work up the nerve. I'm like 20 some years old here. I finally work up the nerve. I'm going over this Route 30 bridge, which, by the way, is not restricted. You're more than legal to ride on it with a bicycle if you have the nerve to do it. And I did, and I finally made it over this bridge, and it's a drawbridge, and it's grated, you know, a grid, and you can see through the grid. So yeah, if you look down, you would get that queasy feeling like you're doing the whole E.T. Elliot floating through the air. You know, you felt like you were flying in the air. And so yeah, I did that bridge a couple of times back in the day, and each time it kind of left you with a feeling that left you wondering, should I keep doing this? You know. Anyway, fast forward yet again to 2014, where I got the Black Rider. The Black Rider was my very first 700C bicycle wheel bike, and I had gone over this Route 30 bridge before on mountain bike tires, and it gave the rumble, and I was prepared for that. So long story short, you can go into Atlantic City 3 different ways, only 2 of which are permissible by a bicycle: Route 30 and Route 40. The expressway is forbidden to bicycles, which ironically enough is strange because there's ample shoulder the entire way, at least from Pleasantville into Atlantic City. It's a 7-mile stretch. Anyway, so there I am, Route 30. I was somewhere near Route 30, and I had cause for being in Atlantic City, so I decided to take Route 30. All was going well. You know, I jumped onto Route 30 in Pleasantville. It's a 7-mile journey, not that big of a deal, or at least back then it wasn't. We'll talk more later in a different episode. Jump on the bike. I'm doing my thing, get there to the bridge, and as I reach the bridge, you know, I'm getting up as much speed as I can because you've got like an 8% incline to get up there. And of course, I'm doing my whole lane control thing. And this is my very first time going over this bridge on 700C wheels. I knew there was a grate. I knew the grate was raised, so I was prepared for the road vibration, the road buzz. What I didn't understand, though, what I didn't realize when I went over it on my mountain bike tires was that the vertical, so to speak, was raised like a 1/4 inch higher than our horizontal, okay? And it wasn't quite a train track nightmare situation, but yeah, it was extremely difficult controlling the bicycle on those kind of wheels. It was just, I'm like bouncing, just jumping in between the grooves, trying to, you know, and of course I didn't realize the danger I was in until it was, you know, too late. I'm now at the top of the bridge in the grate, bouncing around, wishing to God that I had never did this, definitely telling myself, you know, this is the last time I'm ever going to do this again. On the way down, though, apparently the grated bridge was just, that wasn't even the worst of it. As I'm sure you all know, asphalt expands, contracts, winter, summer, plow trucks. There was a pothole that was a couple of feet long and maybe I'm going to say 10 or 11 inches wide. I'm like coming down the bridge now, so I'm picking up a lot of speed. And I, unfortunately, as much as I would love to slow down, I've got a lot of traffic behind me. When I was coming over the bridge on that steel grate, I was being flanked by all kinds of vehicles. which was why had the bejesus scared out of me, because at any second I could have completely lost control and gone underneath. There is no shoulder on that bridge. There is no walkway. There is no nothing. It's just simply your roadway that you're on. If I would have lost control on that steel grating, there was no question about it. I would have been underneath the wheels of the cars and the trucks that were coming past me. So I needed the speed on the descent to keep up with traffic. And as I'm like hitting 35 miles an hour here, and bam! I hit this pothole. What was so scary was that it was by God's grace that this breach in the road was horizontal, more so than vertical. Okay, you understand? Had it have been vertical, or parallel, perpendicular to my wheels, I guess that's what I should be saying. Had it been perpendicular to my wheels, even if it had been significantly narrower, it would have caught my wheel. We're not talking just simply a train track situation. It would have immediately seized my wheel, like how car washes grab your wheel to pull your car through. It would have immediately, at 35 miles an hour, I would have been flung over the handles of the bicycle. I am clipped into the bicycle. It's unclear as to how much, if the bicycle would have been ripped out of the hole to come with me, or if I would have been ripped out of my cycling shoes. All I can tell you is that the injuries would have been absolutely catastrophic. I was able to maintain control. I made it to the foot of the bridge. I made a right-hand turn. I believe it's Gramercy Avenue. Gramercy School, I believe it's called. I go over into the elementary school's playground area, bring the bike to a stop, get off, and sit down on a bench. Where I then thanked God, the God of my understanding, for protecting this fool. Not just that time, but probably a lot of times. Protecting this fool. Needless to say, as I sat there on that bench, I had a very sobering conversation with myself. This is the last time we go over that bridge. I don't care what kind of bicycle you have, okay? I don't care if it's an e-bike, I don't care, fat tires, I don't give a shit. You're not going over this bridge ever again on any bicycle. Is this clear? Yes, Total Control, it's clear. So after having that bracing conversation with myself, checking the bicycle's wheels for broken spokes or any other kind of damage, that is exactly what I did. That was about 5 or 6 years ago that incident happened, and yes, to this day, I have not ever, and nor will I ever, use Route 30 to go into Atlantic City, even if that means, because I would have to go 8 miles out of my way to go to Route 40 before I can begin the 7-mile journey into Atlantic City. I don't care. I will never use Route 30 again. I said all of that to hopefully make clear to you that despite what the government may think, even when we do make our mistakes in life, I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions. I know how to learn from my mistakes, and I don't need the government to be a nanny state, to force people into doing things, into medical decisions. And again, we can also start talking about the hypocrisy here. Should our liberals be forced, depending on what kind of medical reporting you wish to follow and believe? Should the women be forced to have children? And if we are facing a overcrowding situation, should both men and women be forced to be sterilized? You know, we have deemed the population to be too much. This decision is being made for you by the government, and it's for your own good. You might fight us now, but you'll come to, like the seatbelt law, you'll come to thank us for us later. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're laid there on the surgeon's table with your legs forcibly held open, and the doctor goes in with his or her scalpel to sterilize you, just remember, just like the seatbelt law, it's all being done for your own good. Total Control 871.